In the dead of night, Rome burns, the flames licking the heavens as if to swallow the stars. Among the chaos, a young man, barely 30, watches from a gilded balcony. Some say he plays his lyre, serenading the inferno with a poet's detachment. Nero was born into chaos, his earliest memories steeped in violence and betrayal. As Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus, he was the scion of one of Rome's most infamous families, cursed with bloodlines thick with ambition and treachery. His father, Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus, was a man of infamous cruelty, whose only legacy to his son was a reputation for brutishness and an early death. At the age of 3, Nero was left fatherless. His life soon overshadowed by the formidable presence of his mother, Agrippina the Younger. Agrippina was no ordinary woman. A granddaughter of Emperor Augustus, she embodied the relentless drive and ruthlessness required to navigate Rome's treacherous political waters. Exiled for conspiracy, she clawed her way back to power, determined to see her son rise as emperor. Nero's childhood was a precarious dance between neglect and control, as Agrippina orchestrated his ascent with chilling precision. When Agrippina married Emperor Claudius and maneuvered Nero into the line of succession, the young man found himself thrust into the labyrinth of Roman politics. At just 16, he ascended the throne, inheriting not just an empire, but also the expectations of an entire dynasty. At first, Nero seemed a promising ruler, his reign guided by seasoned advisors like Seneca the Younger and Burrus. The early years were marked by stability and reform, with Nero cultivating an image of a cultured and benevolent leader. Yet beneath this facade of stability, cracks began to form. Agrippina's influence loomed large, her relentless demands clashing with Nero's burgeoning desire for independence. Their relationship, once symbiotic, became increasingly adversarial. The defining break came in one of the most infamous acts of his reign, matricide. Accounts vary as to how Nero orchestrated his mother's death, whether by a collapsing ceiling, a staged shipwreck, or outright assassination, but the result was the same. Agrippina, the woman who had molded him, was gone, and with her, the last tether to his humanity seemed to snap. Matricide is an act that defies comprehension, but in Nero's case, it reveals the psychological torment that defined his life. Was it a calculated move to secure his autonomy, or an eruption of rage against a domineering figure who had controlled him since birth? The death of Agrippina marked a turning point in Nero's reign, unleashing a darker side of his personality that would come to dominate the historical narrative. Nero's passion for the arts became both his sanctuary and his downfall. He fancied himself a poet, musician, and actor, often forcing Rome's elite to attend his performances. To modern eyes, his artistic pursuits might seem eccentric, even admirable, but to the Romans, they were a scandalous departure from the dignity expected of an emperor. Nero's obsession with his own image reveals a deep-seated insecurity, a need for validation that no amount of applause could satisfy. His performances, while grandiose, were also an escape, a rare moment where he could control the narrative of his life, if only briefly. The psychological implications of Nero's artistic fervor are profound. Deprived of unconditional love in his formative years, he sought adulation from his subjects, using his talents as a way to connect with an empire that increasingly saw him as an outsider. Yet his need for control extended beyond the stage. Those who failed to show the proper enthusiasm for his performances risked their lives, a chilling reminder of the emperor's fragility beneath his imperial power. In AD 64, Nero's reign reached its most infamous moment, the Great Fire of Rome. The The blaze, which consumed vast swaths of the city, became a turning point in his relationship with the populace. Regardless of whether Nero was culpable, his response to the disaster cemented his reputation as a tyrant. Nero's handling of the fire reveals a ruler increasingly detached from reality, consumed by paranoia and desperation to maintain control. His persecution of the Christians, marked by grotesque executions, underscores the lengths to which he would go to deflect blame and assert his authority. From a psychological perspective, this period reflects Nero's growing isolation as he lashed out against perceived enemies in a futile attempt to preserve his crumbling image. As the years wore on, Nero's paranoia deepened. Conspiracies, both real and imagined, haunted his reign. The Personnian conspiracy of AD 65, a plot to overthrow him, marked a turning point in his mental state. In response, Nero unleashed a wave of purges, executing senators, generals, and even his former mentor, Seneca. Nero's paranoia was not without cause. The pressures of his position, combined with the betrayals that had marked his life, created a ruler who saw threats in every shadow. Yet his increasingly erratic behavior also alienated those who might have supported him, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of isolation and rebellion. By the end of his reign, Nero had become a man adrift, surrounded by sycophants, yet utterly alone. In AD 68, rebellion erupted across the empire. Nero, abandoned by the Senate and declared a public enemy, fled Rome. His final days were a tragic echo of his tumultuous life. As soldiers closed in, he reportedly declared, "What an artist dies in me," before taking his own life. His death marked the end of the Julio-Claudian dynasty and the beginning of a chaotic period in Roman history. Nero's legacy is a complex tapestry of cruelty, creativity, and tragedy. While his name has become synonymous with tyranny, a closer examination of his life reveals a man shaped by forces beyond his control. His childhood, defined by loss and manipulation, created a foundation of insecurity that colored his every action. As emperor, he was both a victim of his circumstances and an architect of his downfall, a ruler whose humanity was overshadowed by his flaws. To understand Nero is to confront the fragility of power and the human cost of ambition. His life, like the empire he ruled, was a study in contradictions, grand and grotesque, inspiring and horrifying. In the end, Nero's story is not just that of an emperor, but of a soul undone by the weight of its own shadow.